What's up and welcome everyone, my name is Isaac and I appreciate you checking out the channel. Now if you're new here and you're not really sure what to expect, I'm kind of your one-stop shop for all your gaming needs. So I've got high kill gameplay, I've got guides that'll teach you how to get better, and then of course, like today, I've got gear reviews which will show you the products that are going to give you that little upper hand against your opponents. Now today we are talking about the Scuf Vantage 2 Modern Warfare Edition. Now if you're looking for a Vantage 2 review, this is going to, fit what you need. The only difference between the Vantage 2 and the Modern Warfare Vantage 2 is you get some in-game trinkets and then of course you get the skin. So all functionality is going to be the same, so stick around. Now, who am I to be telling you about a competitive gaming controller? Why would you listen to me? This is kind of going to be a weird flex, but okay, but I think it's important that you know. My entire YouTube channel started based off the fact that I was the #1 Hanzo in North America. I was top 500 in Overwatch. In the Call of Duty Blackout scene, I was big into the wager scene. I broke a world record at one point, since broken, for 25 kills in a solo lobby. In the Modern Warfare Beta, I've dropped over 100 kills on both PC and PS4. All that being said, I am a very serious gamer. Obviously, I enjoy high-quality guide reviews, but at the end of the day, what's most important to me is being better than you at the video game. So, it's really important that you understand that I am a competitive player, and throughout this review, this is not just an unboxing. I have put over 30 hours into this controller, and so I hope to provide some valuable insight to people who want to be good with the new Scuf Vantage 2, and not just give you a typical, hey, here's what it looks like, here's 5% off code. That being said, this controller was provided to me for free by Scuf. Full disclosure. As much as I respect Scuf for giving a chance to a smaller creator, that won't affect the integrity of my review. So if this controller is trash, I will tell you, and I will roast Scuf. Sorry guys. Now, that being said, if at the end of this video you do decide that you want to purchase this controller, I do have an affiliate code. It's simply an affiliate code. It's code Isaac. It'll give you 5% off of your controller. Now, one thing I do on my channel, if you're new here, is I've got up in the top right-hand corner of the screen, I've got what's called the Don't Waste Your Timeline. If you've already seen an unboxing video, let's say from like Hollow or Spiros, feel free to skip that part. I've got up in here the timestamps where the essential parts of my video are going to be. Before you jump ahead, please consider liking or subscribing. It takes a lot of time to put together this entire video, so I would appreciate it if you are using it and you do find value, consider subscribing to the channel. All that out of the way, let's go and get into the unboxing section of this review. Now, this unboxing experience was actually really impressive. I haven't been this impressed by, the professionalism and the attention to detail since the unboxing of my Secret Lab Titan. And this may have put it over the edge for being the best I've ever had. This is a personalized message from the founder and CEO of Scuf Gaming, basically, thanking each individual from their marketing, PR, partner team for reviewing the controller, working with them throughout all these years, and it's just a really great touch for people to build, build brand ambassadors and build loyalty to the brand. So, nice touch, guys. That USB drive was a media drive for basically marketing assets, but I shoot my own B-roll, so I didn't need that. And then, of course, here we've got a Scuf shirt. Fortunately, they nailed the size, and it fits like a dream. On the right-hand side, you can see we have two packages. One of them is a black accessory kit, and the other one is white. Basically, what that allows you to do is have different size thumbsticks, some of them concave, some of them convex. It also has extended triggers. And then instead of a rocker D-pad, it has like a paddle that you can switch around as well. Oh, and of course, the anti-friction rings to replace those later on as well. This is a box that most of you will be receiving. You didn't order any extra accessories. You just ordered a Vantage 2. This is the sort of unboxing experience you're going to get. So when it shows up, it's most likely going to be, surrounded by packaging material. You open it up, and you've got this flip-open Scuf case. And you open it, and it's beautiful. Now, obviously, when you receive yours, it's going to be pristine. Mine has some fingerprints all over it. Like I said, I've put over 30 hours into this controller. When you get yours, it's going to be, covered in that plastic wrap. You're going to get that awesome sensation of peeling everything off of your brand new controller, never been touched by anyone else, except for maybe their quality assurance team. Underneath, we have a basics accessory kit. So inside of here, you've got some extended triggers, you've got some extra thumbsticks, and you also have a tuning key, which we're going to talk about later for hair triggers. Next to that, you have a Scuf travel case. It's really sturdy. I tried squishing. It's not moving, so throw your Vantage in there when you go to travel. You also have an included 10-foot braided USB cable. I'm excited for the day they switch to USB-C, but that cable is actually really sturdy and really nice. And you also have an included Scuf pod where you can put your accessories in there so they're not, rattling around while you travel. Underneath there, we have the Call of Duty Modern Warfare Scuf Vantage 2 code on the back side of that. That'll give you some in-game trinkets as a part of this purchase. And then finally, you got, kind of the necessary stuff. You have the Open Learn Perform. It's got the warranty and instruction information. Now, one thing I really want to mention is up on the top. It's right when you open the case. It stares you in the face. It says, before you start. It talks about updating the firmware on your Scuf, but I am not going to do this. This controller should work from day one. We're going to talk about the Vantage 1 later on, but all tests are going to be done without the firmware. Now, looking at this controller a little closer, it is beautiful. I mean, look at that blue and black. It's got some terrain features underneath. I'm wondering if there are any Easter eggs hidden in there. On the touchpad, you have the Modern Warfare logo, as well as a whole bunch of mini Scuf logos. And a nice little touch is it's got a crosshair on the Dpad as well. Now, when you flip the controller over, it's got the entire reason you bought it in the first place, the iconic Scuf paddles. Now, this is my first time ever owning a Scuf, and I was really impressed with how firm and tactile these paddles are. I mean, they feel extremely solid. The back of the controller also comes with a rubber grip, and this entire thing feels so solid in your hand, especially when compared to the stock PS4 controller. I mean, look at the seam right there by the headphone jack, how much this PS4 controller starts to move when you twist it about. But I really cranked on the Modern Warfare, and it was not moving at all, even with that detachable faceplate. Now, something unique to the Vantage 2 is the side access buttons, or SAX buttons. To my surprise, in all my 30 hours of playing, I never once accidentally actuated these buttons. I've got pretty average size hands, and you can see I still have kind of a gap. At first, I thought I had to really, kind of exaggerate to get the touch in. But once you get used to the controller, it's actually pretty ergonomic to use. Flipping down to the bottom side, you have two switches. On the right side, that is your remap switch. So you simply slide that over to the right, press the paddle that you want to use, and then the associated button you want that paddle to be remapped to. This includes R3, D-pad, and even the start button. To confirm your remap, simply slide the switch over to the left. On the opposite side, you have the USB versus Bluetooth option. Right here, I've got it in the USB option, and one of my favorite things about this controller, obviously it's extremely sturdy, but the way they've built it is that the plastic housing extends from the controller, so if there's any strain put on the controller, it's going to be plastic versus plastic, as opposed to here with the stock Sony, all of that weight is actually going on the housing, on the cable itself, so there's a lot of room for damage there. A really unique feature they added to this controller is the ability to slide left to bring down or slide right to bring up the volume of your headset. Now, customization is king with the Scuf controller, and one option you have here is the adjustable trigger stop. You can turn it around, do it a little better than I turned it around, for a shorter trigger pull, let's say if you want a faster single fire on your weapons. Now, in order to remove the faceplate, you have two little notches on the side of the controller. Simply lift under there with your fingernails, push through the thumbsticks, and there you have it. Something unique on the Modern Warfare Edition is those little sniper scopes as the rumble pads. They're extremely easy to remove. Simply remove them out with your fingernail, and then obviously the rest of the controller is customizable as well. So you can remove the thumbsticks, remove the rumble pads, and then you can even remove the D-pad as well and swap that out for a rocker. Now, in the accessory kit included in the package that I was sent, I've got a lot of different options for ways I can improve the controller. Me personally, I like playing with the higher domed stick, especially on the right-hand side. That gives me a little bit more precision whenever I'm doing sniping. On the left, it really doesn't matter for me. I personally like to play with the rumblers removed as well. It's less weight, and I don't want vibration messing with my aim in any way. And then I also decided to swap out and try out the new D-pad rocker as well. It swaps in magnetically, but we're going to talk more about that later. And then the last option you have is to change out the size of your trigger. Now, me personally, I think I'm going to play with the regular one, but you can simply just snap it off. Now, one thing you have to see is that top little tiny hole. You can stick a key in there, and it'll adjust the threshold, basically, how far you have to press R2 in order for it to activate. Now, all these aesthetics, the features, the customization, none of it really matters if the controller can't perform. So while we talk about that, I've got some gameplay in the background of me playing with my friend Jenks, where we have the Call of Duty Blackout Heroes mode. This allows you to use your Scuf controller to its absolute potential because you have to jump, aim, crouch, do everything all at once, and I really put the paddles through the ringer while playing this mode. Now, I've got pros, kind of neutral things, and then some cons, but obviously one of the biggest things is this is a huge learning curve to play with the Scuf Vantage. Especially for me, playing with claw my entire life, I kind of had to rewire my brain. I still find myself pulling out the claw grip in those really tense scenarios. I haven't yet made the paddle second nature, but it's starting to get more and more easy, and I really think it's going to be sustainable long term. Now, pro number 1, we already talked about it. I think this controller is beautiful, but if you're just rocking the standard Vantage 2 Black, that doesn't really apply to you so much. But what does apply to you? Pro number 2, it is solid in your hands. I talked about earlier trying to twist the controller. Some people do like the tilted twist when they're really upset. Doesn't budge at all. The paddles never shifted around. They felt solid. I've actually never even snapped them off because they're comfortable right there. They're solid from the factory. Pro number 3, the side access buttons. Now, when I first saw these, I thought they were kind of gimmicky, even after seeing them in the ad. But after getting the controller in my hand, 1, I never accidentally pressed them, and 2, I actually remapped those buttons to be helpful. Obviously, you can't remap all 4 of your Dpad buttons. We'll talk about that later. But in a lot of these BRs, you have to use your Dpad a lot, so I remapped my side access buttons to help with that. Pro number 4, and obviously the most important part of this controller, is the paddles. If the paddles did not work effectively, this entire controller would be a waste of your money. Fortunately for Scuf, and fortunately for this review, the paddles worked exceptionally well. Not only from a functional standpoint, where obviously if I can remap it easily, if I can press the button and it goes to the corresponding button, it works. That all worked just fine. But more importantly, from an ergonomic perspective, it's so much more comfortable for me to be able to simply squeeze the controller and that trigger a jump rather than me reaching my claw grip all the way around, or even worse, having to take my thumb off of the aim. So the paddles feel great, they work exceptionally well, and they've helped my gameplay. I can imagine in a game like Overwatch or Destiny where you're constantly doing jump shots that this would save so much pain from either having to take your hand off the thumbstick or play claw. And finally, pro number 5 is actually something I wasn't expecting to see, but it helps break bad habits. I always had a bad habit of jump peeking corners in Call of Duty instead of slide peeking corners. And so when I had to kind of remap my brain and figure out how I'm pressing these buttons again, it actually forced me to rethink some of my gameplay as well. Without getting into the details, for your specific game, this may help you as well. Now, before we get into the cons of this controller, I want to address 2 quick neutral things. Obviously, this has an Xbox layout. I'm very used to the PlayStation layout. Maybe they're trying to convince Xbox players to switch over to PS4 because their only reason beforehand is they like the Xbox controller better. I don't really know. This controller is only for PC and PS4, so maybe that's their logic. Obviously, they have the Impact and the Infinity 4PS, but I just got to be honest, I prefer the PS4 layout. The other thing is, obviously, it has the integrated grip into the back of the controller. And it also has, additional thumbsticks as well. Those are items that feel different from the stock PS4. And they are significantly better than the stock PS4 in terms of their grip. But I could always foresee the grip getting better, more longevity on it, tackier for longer. Same thing with the thumbsticks. Now, Scuf does offer a product called Gamer Grip. It's something that goes on your hands that helps prevent slipping. I imagine it'd be really useful in competition. 2 gamers I really respect, Soar Finicky and Soar Daltouche, both use it and swear by it. Obviously, it'd be nice if the controller off the bat was able to accomplish that, but when you're dealing with lotions and oils, it makes sense you kind of have to have something you apply to really get consistent grip.
He did.
Now, the first con that I have for this controller is it's a little tough to press that center button. It's really a minor con because I'm getting used to it more and more, but the outside paddles, you just have to squeeze. The middle one, you kind of got to do this little twist, and there's no really, big sense of traction letting you know that you're on the middle paddle, and so, like for Battle Royale, where I'm pressing square to loot, it's a little bit tougher to mash that center paddle. What I'm considering doing is adding like a little granulate grip, just a cutout of a circle, and putting that on that middle paddle so I've got a little bit of increased traction. This is actually used on firearms, and when I originally saw the Vantage 2 Modern Warfare Edition, I thought that's what the controller was going to have. You can see it's kind of got that speckled, that stippled pistol grip that you have in the game. It's got that coating on the outside, but it's smooth as opposed to a rough kind of concrete granulate texture. For this con, take a look at the hand cam on my stream. As you can see here, I'm using a double claw grip so I can continue to move while I'm looting, staying safe, and also navigating the menu. You can't do this with an Xbox layout. Now, obviously, this is a super sweaty technique, and it's only going to be applicable for battle royales, right? In Modern Warfare, the only time you're using the D-pad is going to be to pop up night vision or use a kill streak. You're never going to have to use those while you're also moving around, so it's kind of a queepy point, but for battle royale, for a very serious player, you would need to go with a Vantage or an Infinity 4PS in order to have that double claw. It allows me to move, shoot, loot, access my inventory all at the same time, and even with those side access buttons, I can't remap all 4 of my D-pad buttons to a paddle or a side access. Now, my first serious and only serious con for this controller is actually in the design of the D-pad. All the other cons were a little bit queepy, but this is serious. Do you see what happened there? If you zoom in, the way these D-pads are constructed is they have individual magnets inside of the D-pad and then individual magnets inside of the controller. And what happened to me on both of my D-pads is I ended up losing 2 of those small magnets, or at least I lost 2 and the other 2 fell out. So you have to be really careful whenever you're swapping these out to make sure they're not left on the controller. Because what actually ended up happening to me is I left one of them on the controller, and then when I went to swap out a new D-pad and press it in, it pressed that magnet inside of the controller. Fortunately, I was able to, use a tweezer. It attracted the tweezer, and I was able to pull it out. But you got to be really careful. So every time you swap out your D-pad, just make sure you don't leave any on there. I wasn't able to replicate this. I pressed in with my tweezer multiple times to make sure it was really snug in there, and then I tried pressing it on, removing it. I couldn't get it to repeat the process, and so it could have possibly just been a couple ones that were loose, but that's something for you to be aware of whenever you have your own controller. Obviously, make sure you flip it on the right way. Right now, I got it upside down, so it's not secure. Any gameplay since fixing this has been fine. All the gameplay prior was perfectly fine. Just be careful whenever you're swapping this out to look for loose magnets. And that's the only con I've had with the controller. That's actually a serious con. The other stuff's just kind of personal queep. Now, I wanted to specifically address the Vantage 2 compared to the Vantage 1. So I'm going to talk about problems that the Vantage 1 had pre-firmware update. And I'm going to talk about the Vantage 2 and how it compares at launch, right? If you're buying this controller, it should be right from day one. So Vantage 1, it had issues with your remaps not saving after you turned off your controller. That has never been an issue for me. All my remaps have saved. Another issue people had with the Vantage 1 was Bluetooth connectivity. I mainly play with USB, but I played about 5 hours the other night with Bluetooth just to be sure, and I never had any issues with connectivity. Another issue people had with the Vantage 1 was stick drift, and that's where the stick will move even though you're not putting any input in. I would not forgive an ounce of stick drift, and fortunately I'm not seeing that in the Vantage 2. People also complained with the Vantage 1 that they couldn't turn on their PS4, and I have been able to turn my PS4 on with both wired and Bluetooth mode. And then finally, the most important and probably the most critical review of the Vantage 1 is that there were issues with the Deadzone. Now, Deadzone is basically where you move your controller or you move your right stick or left stick, and movement is not put into the game. Now, a small amount of Deadzone is perfectly fine. You need a small amount of Deadzone to prevent either you putting in accidental inputs and then also stick drift, right? If you have absolutely zero Deadzone, you're going to end up with some stick drift. So I've put together a video where I compare directly the Scuf Vantage 2 to a stock factory PlayStation PS4 controller, and we're going to compare what it looks like to make sure there is absolutely zero Deadzone in the Vantage 2. So in order to test this, I went into Call of Duty Blackout. I turned my sensitivity up all the way, and I aimed at the very center of the target. And you'll see right now it's moving. Even with just the slightest input onto the stick, it's moving. Now later on, I'll show you where the tolerance is, basically to where I can still wobble the controller or wobble the joysticks, and it won't move. But right when you start to make that deliberate amount of force, it's going to register it. Now, the Vantage 1 was fixed. The Deadzone capability was fixed in the Vantage 1 after a firmware update. And the Modern Warfare Vantage is actually going to, or all Vantages in the future, are going to come with a PC client, basically where you can go in, you can recalibrate your controller, you can recalibrate your Deadzone to your own specific needs. But out of launch, I wanted to compare this to the stock PlayStation 4 controller, and it's holding up. To show that this is the norm, I've pulled up a stock PlayStation controller. This is from the factory, and as you can see, no movement when you're jiggling around, and then right when you press that threshold, you get the same amount of movement. So everything for me has felt exactly the same between the Vantage 2 to a stock PlayStation controller, obviously paddles and stuff aside, but all the issues from the Vantage 1, Scuf has done their due diligence. I have not been able to replicate any of them in the Vantage 2. All right, so with all of that in mind, let's go ahead and wrap this thing up with my conclusion. Now, obviously, this controller is visually stunning. It's one of the best looking controllers I've ever seen. But there are plenty of custom controller manufacturers out there who have cheaper controllers that look, maybe just as cool. What we really want to Scuf for is the competitive edge. Does the Scuf Vantage 2 give you the competitive edge? Absolutely. I cannot stress this enough. If you are not playing with a claw grip or with a custom controller, you are missing out on the competitive edge that is going to cost you in Modern Warfare. Now, Modern Warfare has a much faster time to kill than any of the previous Call of Duty, so you can get taken out near instantly in this game. And so if you're taking time to jump around a corner or slide around a corner and also take your hand off that right stick to where you can't be aiming at the same time, acquiring that opponent, they will likely kill you first, or at least a decent player will. So, playing with a claw grip or playing with a Scuf controller does give you a competitive advantage. Now, obviously, it's much more ergonomic, as I've talked about before, much more comfortable to play with the Scuf. So I am pushing for that. If you are not playing with a claw grip already and you want that competitive edge, the Scuf is the way to go. If you're playing with a claw grip already and it's getting a little uncomfortable, but you're still wanting to, maintain that for hours at a time, I would look into this. Now, it's expensive. We're talking $219 for the Modern Warfare Edition, and even if you're doing the base model Vantage 2, that's still $169. So what really gets important is this reliable? And more than that, as we look at this, the Vantage 2, when we go through with a microscope and look at the individual issues that the Vantage 1 had, is this worth it? Now, after evaluating every single problem that the Vantage 1 had, and keeping a strict eye on it during my 30 hours of gameplay, I haven't been able to find any significant flaws with this controller. There are some additional things I would like to see maybe changed about the Vantage 3 when it comes to ergonomics, maybe increased grips, increased grip on the thumb grips, but that's getting really picky. And one nice thing to know about this controller is the warranty policy. So all of Scuf's controllers released recently have a 6-month warranty on the entire controller. So if anything breaks on it, obviously there are, voids if it gets wet or if you smash it through the floor. There's, common sense voiding for their warranty. But the entire controller has a 6-month warranty, and the paddles themselves, which is what you really buy a Scuf for, have a 12-month warranty on them as well. So not only does it give you competitive edge, but at least as of now, everything that I've seen without a firmware update, the Vantage 2 performs how it should out of launch, which is so refreshing because I was afraid after seeing some of those negative reviews that wasn't going to be the case. Now, don't get me wrong. I could post a overly negative review of this, make something up, because overly negative reviews, drama gets results, people. Drama gets views, but that's not what I'm here for. I wanted to let you guys know that this Vantage 2 performs as it should. It is an expensive controller, but between its reliability, its performance, and the Scuf warranty, along with their great customer service, at least from my dealings with them, I've been impressed. I can recommend this controller, and so that's one reason why I'm actually doing a giveaway for this controller. I have already purchased a separate controller using code Isaac, get 5% off. I've purchased a separate Modern Warfare controller with my own money on behalf of my own brand, putting my brand, my reputation, my integrity as a product reviewer on the line to give to a member of my community. Obviously, this is an expensive controller, so, maybe someone who's not in a great spot or is a little bit younger, I want to be able to provide that opportunity to get this in their hands. So, if you want to enter a giveaway for this brand new, not this one, your very own Modern Warfare Vantage controller, make sure to check out the link in the description. I can hit you up with one there. And of course, that about wraps up for this video. I really appreciate you guys checking it out. If you've been all the way to this point in the video, you clearly value my opinion, or you have maybe been enjoying the content, or I bored you so much you're asleep. So if you're awake right now, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Continue supporting the channel. Let me know in the comments how I can improve, what you want to see next. And of course, I've got my socials available as well in the description. And most importantly, I've got my Twitch in there as well. So if you want to watch me game on Modern Warfare live, if you want to see this controller in action live with my hand cam, I've got that as well. And I really can't thank you guys enough for checking out this video. And once again, one big thank you to Scuf for providing me with the opportunity to review this controller for free. It's such an honor. You guys are an amazing company in terms of size and branding and professionalism. I'm really proud to be able to give a positive review in my first interaction with your company, so thank you guys so much for the kind PR package and giving a small channel like myself a chance. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. It's been a blast doing this sort of professional review. I got a lot of stuff planned for the future of the channel, especially with Modern Warfare. So anything games, guides, gear, I got you. Peace.